Welcome to the R Readiness Lens podcast, where we're focused on numbers and driven by results. I'm your host, Sheri Radler, and each week we're going to take a closer look at the practical ways to get your business ready for what's next. From planning for the upcoming quarter to finding the right health insurance for your team. Whether you're small or mid-sized owner looking for advisory support or just want to better understand your numbers, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back to R Readiness Lens, where we're going to be talking this week about operational blind spots that can cost you growth. Most business owners, when you think of growth, you think of more business, more clients, more revenue, more profits. But what if the drag that might be holding you back is something that's already in your business and more isn't the solution to it? And the solution is really more about focusing inward and seeing what you have that we might be able to course correct under the hood. Because when we're talking about operational blind spots, these are not big blaring red flags. These are not flashing red lights. These are not indicators of a failing business. What they are is they're often these silent frictions that slow down the operations within your business. And truthfully, they're often a result of good actions put into play at a younger phase of your business. And now that your business has grown, you may have outgrown those actions. So when we think about it, let's always acknowledge that while we might be stuck, we're not necessarily stuck because we're broken. We're maybe stuck because parts of our business haven't grown and evolved with us as quickly as we need them to. So today we're going to talk about what we're calling operational blind spots. And these are the parts of your business that are functioning, but they're not functioning at the smoothest and highest caliber that they should be. They're not urgent. They're not on fire. And they're often something that is not even noticed till you start taking a look around. But when you start talking to your team and you start looking at your operations, you start stubbing your toe on them and you do realize how often they're in here. So there's a difference when we're thinking about this between friction and failure. Failure, like I said, we tend to see it coming. It explodes on us. Big red lights flashing, something is indicating, and it draws our attention, and we know it is something that needs to be dealt with. Friction is a little more of a silent. It can be grainy. It can be killer, but it is invisible. It is silent, but it can slow our world down. So our last podcast focused on business killers and what were those external things that could come in and hit you overnight that could operationally impact your business. And this time we're going to be talking about operational efficiencies and those blind spots, those things that are already inside, those things that we already have, and we're going to try to highlight and bring them up. So let's go back just a second. We're going to go back to our last podcast and we focused on business killers. These are often the external things that come in the door, and when they happen, they can kick our feet out from under us. They can be the 4 Ds: death, disability, disease, divorce. Those things that happen that can knock you down overnight and create an immediate shift in the priorities of yourself, your world, your family, your partner's family. And how you react and deal with them can often either impact the resiliency of your business or be impacted by the resiliency that you've already put into your business. Can your business withstand you having to step out? If something were to happen, do we have a key man policy, partnership agreements, those agreements that are put in place initially to give us that backstop of if this happens, this is what we anticipate occurring. If this were to occur, these are the positions we put in place, the savings, the key man policies, and the insurance. Some of the other risks that can come in as a business killer, it can be a team risk. We all have that people on our team that are our right hand, our most valuable. Our teams are our resources. And while, yes, we've all heard the adage that no one person is irreplaceable, there's a whole lot of people that can hurt us if they were to be lost overnight. You know, what happens if some of what happened to our top people, if they left overnight, or even worse, if something happened in preventing them to step back in? Do we have the SOPs? Do we have the workflows? What type of institutional knowledge that we might lose in the event that we lost one of our top people? Another business killer can be our pipeline risk. We've all talked about and we've heard about vendor concentration and customer diversification. Our auditors talk about it whenever they come in, and they tell you how you have too many eggs in a basket. And yes, sometimes this is true. Sometimes we have top customers or our favorite suppliers. But when we do have a concentration in any type of that in our supply chain and our client and customer chain, their problems become our problems. Their issues now become our issues. Because if they don't survive, or if they are not be able to provide us what we're needing, we need to know that. Some of the indicators that might show us that is the fact, are our customers paying us on slower terms? Are they starting to drag out the funds to us? Those could be indicators of a troubling situation maybe on their side. What about our deliveries and our suppliers? Are our deliveries still on a timely basis? Or are we starting to see any kind of lag in getting our product here? Being aware of that kind of risk is, protects us from those kind of business killers. And finally, the fourth area we talked about last week in the business killers was our environmental risk. I mean, this could be our landlord opting to sell our business or the building that we've based our building in, and coming in and letting us know that they're going to put the building up on a market. And do you want to buy it for your business, or do you now have to consider a sale? Or what about the new bypass that's coming into town? Might be bypassing where you've been based for the last decade. And now that visibility that has been your prime marketing is no longer going to be there, and it's going to change how you run your business. So all of these that we talked about last week, these business killers, they were all external. They started because something happened that triggered an impact into our business. And we talked about how trying to be ahead of it and building that resiliency into your business so that if it happened overnight and that phone rang, that person walked in, you, while maybe not prepared, were ready to withstand the support. Okay, so now this week we're going to shift it from that external factor to an internal drag. What is happening internally in our world that is slowing us down, preventing us from getting to where we want? And even more importantly, when we're thinking about these operational blind spots, how do we even think to recognize them? How do we see them? How do we know it when we see it? Well, here's some of the places that it can hide. Where are you doing rework? Where is the process getting to a certain point, and then you're realizing, nope, we have to go back and recreate it because it is not being calculated properly? Where are you going off book? The system does not calculate this properly, so we are over here in an Excel worksheet keeping our own tracking of PTO time or commissions or inventory values. Where are you having those conversations and something is broken and you're on the floor and you have that fire and you're coming to a decision and your conversation includes okay, we'll just get it out the door and we'll come back and finish this later. We'll figure it out later. We'll resolve it later. We'll fix it later. Later is our indicator that we're working around a problem. We're bridging a gap somewhere. And then truthfully, just where in your organization are decisions taking too long? Our innovations are happening at the speed of light. AI is ahead of us. We have softwares that can come in and prioritize our calendars and our emails every single day. So when we are taking weeks and months to come to a decision on anything within our organization, we have to ask, is it because it's really a project that needs that type of investment focused research? Or is this something that we just keep picking it up and putting it down because we're not carrying it across the bridge? And over time, all this rework, these manual processes, these carrying it around, these off books, this is our friction. This is our slowing down. This is that institutional knowledge that the person that knows how to do this off book process, that when something happens to them, that is the risk that we're bringing into our organization. So when we think about our operational blind spots, I really want to make sure we emphasize that these are not processes that we're coming into that we're broken, therefore stuck. We're stuck because we've not evolved. And everything we're talking about here is actually an opportunity for us to identify, streamline, synergize, and fix. Okay. So we've kind of started laying out some concepts between the external business killers that can come in and hit us and those internal inefficiencies that have already crept in among us and that we're operating within and we've not identified. So we're going to talk this through our readiness lens. And as we do it, I'd like you to listen to what we're talking about, but filter it through the lens across your business. And ask yourself on this ranking of 1 to 5, how do you rank yourself on these topics? And if you go through and you're like, that's where I hesitate, that's where I don't know the answer, that might actually be where your blind spot is. Okay, so let's talk this one out. We're calling this the readiness framework on our operational blind spots, because when what we do here at our accounting, it's never just about working on just the numbers. It's always about the operations. It's always about the improvement, the bottom line. How do we make this a stronger, more resilient business so it is a stronger and more resilient transferable asset when we want it to be? So we've talked about this before, and there's going to be a resource attached to this podcast on this checklist. And as with every other podcast, we try to give you a resource out. We've talked about our operational pillars before, and we're going to frame this through that lens again. So the first operational pillar we talk about when we're looking at businesses is your financial visibility. Do your numbers help you decide? Because your financials might be accurate. Your books may be reconciled. Your tax guy might be happy. But if you're not using them to make a decision, and if they're not giving you information that's allowing you to make decisions from them, are they actually a valuable asset for you? And since they are your books, yes, they are one of your most valuable assets. So underutilizing the information they're providing is a drop on our side, the reader, the user, the owner, the business, not the failure of the documents and the numbers to give you the information. The numbers are telling you a story. We need you to read your book. Okay. So when you come in and you look at those numbers, do they look clean? Are they logical? As you go down that balance sheet, which is your representation of a point in time, do you understand what they're telling you? These are our bank balances, our liability and credit balances, our mortgage and loan balances. These are our accounts receivable of who owes us money. And these are our accounts payable of who we then owe. When you drill in and look at those two numbers on an aging, you see how fast your customers are paying you. And are you collecting your money on a timely basis? Or is your cash flow starting to stretch out? Are you paying your vendors also timely? And have you gotten yourself in a relationship where maybe you are fronting and paying your vendors ahead of when you are collecting the cash on the engagement on the project? So all of these are the things we're wanting these numbers to tell you. They're showing you your lagging indicators. They're showing you that at the beginning of the year, you laid out a budget that said, this is the plan and this is the journey that we've mapped out for the year. This is how I'm getting from Louisville, Kentucky to Atlanta, Georgia. And then every month when you review those numbers, they're letting you know how you're holding up. And when you wake up and find yourself in Arkansas, it's because you've not looked at the numbers. You laid yourself out a map and somehow you failed to follow it. And that's the question we ask ourselves, why? Did we just change the outcome? We headed to Arkansas. The meeting was no longer in Atlanta. Or did we get lost along the way and we went north instead of south? So if your numbers aren't giving you information to help making some decisions this week, then find out why. Are you not reading them, utilizing them? Or is the numbers that are being given to you not ones that you feel that you can count on and utilize? Wherever on the side of that coin is the problem, the blind spot we need to find. Okay. Our second pillar that we always talk about is our process, our documentations. And the question today is, does your business run or does it react? Does everyone that walks in the door every day know what their job is and their role in their organization to do? Do they live in their operation or is it living in someone's head? Because if it's living in someone's head, that's not a process, that's a risk. And if your process is that, well, everything gets done because we all lean into it and at the end of the day, everything gets done, that is also not a process. That is a risk. Because until everybody in your organization understands their defined role, what is the baggage that you want them to carry? What are they bringing for you and carrying your clients forward today? What is their role? You do not necessarily have that promise that they are showing up and putting out that right fire. We want them to come in and do their role today and have the bandwidth to lean into the fires that you have. But if everyone's over here fighting the fire on the Western Front, you could be losing the fight over here on the other side. Who is responsible for the products, the outcomes, the cross-training, the responsibility? If I am responsible for an outcome in your organization and I run your payroll, who has the cross-training as my backstop if I fail to show up today? Because you have critical items in your business that need to happen irregardless of the person that pushes the button in your role. So if that person is not there, who also knows how to do the job? Who knows to throw and hand the baton down? Great. Sally knows she's going on vacation next week and passes the responsibility for processing payroll over to her cross-trained backstop. But what happens if Sally just doesn't show up today due to a car accident or something? What throws the alert to her backstop to make sure that that role runs unimpeded? Because you don't want to be made aware of the fact that payroll didn't get run when your employees failed to get paid. So you need to know that every step of your organization not only happens if the person responsible for doing it is keeping it on the track, but also that a flare is set up if that check-in is not made, if that gate is not passed, if that button is not pushed. So that next person, your management, your leadership, that person can step in and say, I got this. And this organization keeps going. So if every step of our process is responsible for the primary person responsible for it being available every day to do our job, we do not have a system yet. We still have an exposed vulnerability. Third pillar, our people, our teams, our dependency. Who does your business rely on? Who is the person responsible for every step? Does it remain the owner? As the owner, are you still the hub and the center of your organization and every decision spins off you as the hub of the wheel? Or have you put together that spider web where everyone knows and decisions and responsibilities and ownership has been handed down and put out so that every key employee in your organization knows their role and where they are? Do we have a key employee concentration, and are you looking at succession planning? I spoke to just out at a networking event last week, was speaking to a business owner, and he was just having a conversation, QuickBooks, solid accountant. He was really bragging about the person and his role. And then he mentioned that she is 81 years old and has been with him for 25 years. So my question is like, you've got some of this written down, right? Just truth. You've got this written down. You've built a business with someone that has been with you for 25 years. We've got this covered if something happens to her, correct? You have that backstop. And yes, in this case, they're developing and are bringing up someone that she is training internally, but they have thought that through. They looked far enough down a couple years ago, plotted out a timeline, decided what was the plan, and they put in an operational timeline of who they were going to hire, how they were going to train her, and how that role was going to be handed over to this new assistant controller coming up. So, that is covering the cross training. That is covering the employee dependency. It is really allowing us to understand that having a strong team does not mean that it is made up of a bunch of singular, indispensable people. But a lot of valuable people make up an indispensable team. We want the resiliency that the teams can bring to us. Fourth area of our pillars that we want you to review yourself through is your technology and your tools. Is your tech hiding or helping you within your organization? Because if we have layered technology and systems on top of each other, we may have built in hidden inefficiencies that again is creating cost, lag, and overlap within our systems and our operations. So when you look at every operation you have in your system, do you have one singular technology tool? Do you have redundancy? What is your tech school? What is your calendar? What is your team? What is your scheduler? What is your POS? What is your credit card processor? All of these pieces of your organization, what are they? What do they cover? What is the framework to the left and right of their primary role? Where do they overlap? And where over time maybe have these tools expanded themselves? And what you needed 3 tools and a chain to do, you may now be able to eliminate and only use 2. Where do we have manual workarounds? Where do we still have manual processes that, hey, the system tells us this, but then I pull it down to Excel and I manually calculate this? Or we're still bringing in manual time cards that we're hand adding up into time cards. Where are we still tracking order information or off book for our clients and our sales teams where we have folders? These are our contracts and our engagements, and we're still going to file cabinets and pulling paperwork out. If your team has gone virtual, but your paperwork is still in file cabinets, this is one of those gaps. If they cannot walk over and pull the information they might need out of your file cabinets or out of your system, they are going to fill it in on themselves and presume they know the answer and move forward. And often that might get you in trouble because that agreement you made 10 years ago is not based on that same philosophy and commission structure you use now. And then right now, AI is your modern edge. If you are working in an organization that is not utilizing AI or considering AI in some way, shape, or fashion, consider this the ringing of the bell that we need you to get on this bandwagon. It is in your HR. It is in your sales. It is your branding. It is your marketing. It is HR. It is data analytics, business intelligence. AI is so embedded into organizations at this level that if it is not on yours, you are allowing yourself to fall behind on one of the most definitive competitive shifts that we've had since the Industrial Revolution. The gap between businesses using technology and those that aren't are widening quickly. Please allow yourself to stay abreast of this and don't get caught unawares. There are courses, there are trainings, and funnily enough, you can often ask AI to teach you what you don't know and find the gaps within your own system. So that kind of conceptual is really interesting when you're talking to an AI model and these learning models. And fifth, our final pillar on this readiness lens that we're walking through is our communication, our positioning, our brand. Is the business statement matching how you show up in the world? Do we have internal clarity or is there confusion? Does everyone understand our vision, our mission, and our purpose? What are we going after every day when we come to work, and what is our prime directive that we're trying to accomplish today? Who are the clients that we're trying to accomplish it for? How are we going about giving it to them? And how are we going about letting them know we're out here wanting to offer this service to them? 4 of your top questions right there. Our public messaging is how we're showing up who we are. Using our accounting as example, we are an accounting and controllership firm focused on privately owned, closely held businesses that understand that they're wanting this business to grow and that the framework in business and clean books operational are it. We come in, we handle the accounting framework, operations, 30-day cycle, HR. Does our marketing show that? Because we don't want to show up and say, hey, we are tax resolution specialists on the IRS. Can we do that service? Absolutely. Is that our prime directive? No. So is the message we're putting out in the market matching the service and the prime directive of what we're offering our world? First was, did our internal world understand who we are and what we're offering? Second, does our external market understand who we are and what we're marketing? Is our branding consistent? Our colors, our fonts, our websites, our emails, our LinkedIn, all our channels, wherever you find us, do you have that resonance? Because the disconnect, while it may be invisible to the eye, the subconscious does recognize it. Our virtual presence, our virtual storefronts, our apparel stores. Are we offering these online presence not only to our teams, but to our clients? Or are we still in a world of, hey, write out your order and email it to us, and we will track it on our side and email it back? Streamline synergizing how we show up in our virtual presence is critical. People need the ease of mobile, the ease of click and pay, the ease of easy access. And then our true field presence, the in real life presence, how our people come to our clients. Are we branded in uniforms? Are we branded in our fleets, our business cards? As everyone, when you see us, are we branded there? So that is that communication and positioning presence. Because if your business has evolved, but your messaging hasn't, we're creating our own ceiling. If we're showing up to our clients in a presence that maybe you're like, I wouldn't, I don't gain confidence for how you show up in my world. You're wearing dirty jeans or, random t-shirts. The positioning, are you creating your own ceiling? So considering how you're showing up to your world is the fifth pillar. So as we kind of think about this, we're talking about this just what we're conceptually calling, I guess, more like an operational drift. Everything we're talking here, these blind spots, was a true, solid, and good decision at the time. At the time they were made, they were right decision. When that pivot was made at the fork in the road and the decision had to be done, it was the decision. But it was built maybe for a $500,000 business, and now we're at $3 million. So that manual process needs to be automated. That once saved time is now stealing bandwidth from our team. Have we added tools to our tech stack or to our toolbox, but never fully utilized or implemented them? We got them 70% of the way running, and we've never finished the process. We got just enough out of the box to solve our problem, but never dug deeper to see what other problems it might could solve. We've not gone back regularly to revisit them, to analyze what other features have they added to the tools we already have in our toolbox. But because we've not paid attention, we don't even realize this is a new opportunity within it. So have we revisited? Have we synergized? Have we streamlined how our tools are working for us? Have we looked at our team internally? Again, does everyone know what their role in your organization is? Nikki and I, we call it, does everyone know what to come into the door and turn their light on? You come in, we expect you to know your job today. And if your job is to turn on the coffee machine and start the coffee, we're waiting for the day you show up and turn on the coffee machine and start the coffee without us having to say, why don't you go turn on that coffee machine? We want our people to own their roles, but the only way they can own their roles is if they know what that role is. So have we created the job descriptions? Do we have the organizational chart? Have we given them that direction that if you get lost and don't know the answer, this is the way to go? Go to Google, go to GPT, go to your teammates. Go to our SOPs and our internal resources. Then you go up the chain of command to your supervisor, to your leadership too. But have you tried to self-resource the answer yourself? Have we done the cross-training as well as giving them the expectations of the results? It's not enough to say, hey, you have the ownership of this account. It's more to going back to those SMART goals, the SMART, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely. You have the ownership of this account and we expect it to be done by such and such date at this type of result and these type of deliveries. Those are the type of metrics you're putting around the framework on ownership. And truthfully, as you start having these job descriptions and these conversations, and you have the skills and just even the bandwidth and desire to own the role we've put you in our organization, you may come find out that not everyone is on the right seat, that we may need to shift some of the seats, or we may need to add someone to our bus. So understanding where people sit is also critical. It's not enough to say you have enough bodies, but do you have the right people? Because you don't always, let's understand, we didn't design our operations for where we're at today generally. We designed our operations for where we started. And we have to revisit this design as we hit different tiers and plateaus of our organization to make sure it's still the right fit for us. We want to grow in and make sure our processes review. So, let's think about when we're kind of taking this a little real world. If I think about growth without visibility, how might you see that? Well, our cash flow is getting strapped. We're seeing revenue grow, but profitability is going down. Maybe the movement of money is coming. The economy, are our customers paying us timely? Those type of things. Growth without visibility can also be impacted as in our staffing and our hiring decisions. Because when does an employee become valuable to you? When do they start providing an ROI on your hiring? And that's different from every organization. What's the learning curve in your group? What is the licensing you might be required? If you're coming into one of our insurance agents and clients, you need to have certain licenses, at least a P&C, property and casualty license, before you can get into systems, before you can write any business. So are we requiring that license for you to come in the door? Or are we saying, yes, we'll bring you in the door and give you a runway to get that license on us? How long does it take them to get on our script, on our platforms, on our systems? Everyone is different, but understanding growth and visibility underneath the hood with our team can have a timeline between hire and results. Another place we still see the real world examples we've talked about are numbers. If we're not understanding our numbers, if we're not looking at our numbers, if we're not framing any conversation through our numbers, you may know what's happening in your business because you know how many people walk in, the phone numbers, how many haircuts you're offering, how many services you're doing. You may know that. But if you are not contrasting it to your financials, how do you know that the information being presented on your behalf is accurate? So please marry this information up. What you may know contextually sometimes actually can surprise you tragically when you see how it comes in. You know that this is how much it costs you to service this client. Well, you knew that 5 years ago. Now that cost is different. Your cost of the employee is higher. The cost of the software is higher. The cost of your operations is higher. So that's the financial and the failure to understand our financials. Ownership bottlenecks, team bottlenecks, we've talked about this. If your team is waiting instead of acting because they are still reliant of double checking every decision of their role against you, think about that blind spot. You want to hire fully capable, independent people. Let's give them ownership of the work that we hired them to do. Tech stack chaos. Great tools, poorly connected, creates poor results. And paying for systems not utilized or overlapping are just translating to dollars leaking out the door. And then if our messaging mismatch, if our business has evolved up market, but we're still talking to who our clients were initially, it's not bad, but your messaging is not following your journey. You're still attracting the wrong clients. You're not hitting that preferred client avatar. And if how you're coming out to market is still hodgepodge, mismanaged, and ad hoc, you're creating your own ceiling. You're potentially holding yourself back from growth. Sometimes putting your best foot forward really can translate to dollars. So we've talked about all this. Let's ask the quick question. If you had to rate your business today, based on everything we've just run through, think about it. Your financials, your systems, your clarity, your processes, your people. Where do you hesitate? And where do you trust? Because your hesitation is where your blind spot is. Your hesitation is where you want to take a moment and go back and look. That hesitation is where you have something in your own business that you're not confident enough to trust. So the business environments have changed, but truthfully, too many businesses just haven't caught up internally. Systems, environmental, technology, everything has happened. Banks and lenders are tightening up their scrutiny. They're asking for tighter and deeper information. And if you cannot pull it out of your systems, you're setting yourself up. IRS and regulatory compliance is increasing. Supercomputers and AI, they are coming into that side of it. They are cross-checking our work, guys. So if we are not bringing it into our side of it, we are setting ourselves up. Client expectations are expanding. They realize all this evolution. They are wanting more information, more granularity, more information about what you provide. And if you can't give it to them, you're setting yourself up. Your teams and your hiring, your potential employees, they want more. They want good employers. They want solid benefits. They want good salaries. They want solid and trustworthy employers to work for. And if you're not offering that to your people, you're setting yourself up. And what are you setting yourself up for all this? Well, you're setting yourself up for being left behind. Because truthfully, businesses that are going to win over the next 3 to 5 years are the ones that are looking ahead 3 to 5 years. This train has left the station. It is up to us right now to keep up with AI, the innovation and what's going, and making sure the business we have keeps up with where we need it to go. So what do you need to do next? If you're listening to this and you're asking yourself, oh, heck, I found a few blind spots or something resonated here. What do I do? Well, stop right there. Notate what were those blind spots. Pick the top 1 or 2. Come back in, talk to your team, your leadership, your manager, your ops team, your HR, but talk to them and let's say, what do we know the problem is? How can we fix it? This is not necessarily on you. You are no longer a one-man show responsible for knowing everything. You bring it to the table and you ask your team, what do you see? What is broke? How do we fix it? We're not looking to overhaul here, folks. We're just looking to realign things that are already in your world. If you're looking for more information on this topic, really suggest reading the Les McGowan book, Predictable Success. It is a really great business advisory book that outlines the universal step-by-step process on building organizational growth. Because truthfully, when we're talking about these operational blind spots in our organizations, when business hits a wall, it's not because the wall popped up in front of them. They've carried it with them. You've built it yourself brick by brick. So the question is, are you ready to see it? And are you ready to get over it? Okay. So this concludes this week's episode of Operational Blind Spots and what might be some of those hidden inefficiencies and friction within your walls already that are holding you back. And we hope you come back to next week's episode, which is going to talk about the role of your CFO roundtable. Because most business owners still treat their businesses like you're making all the decisions alone. But the strongest businesses, they are built around the right table. That your CFO roundtable, it's not just your accountant. It's your ops manager. It's your IT manager. It's also your tax group, your HR, your IT, your marketing, your legal, your insurance, that broader group of people that are bringing the expertise, education, and experience to your business to help you get decisions clearer, risk management, and get growth more intentional. So that's what we're going to talk about next time. Who's sitting at your table and who should be there? So join us again at R Readiness Lens and make sure you click through and download the podcast resource for this one of helping you identify your operational blind spots. Best. Thanks for joining me on the R Readiness Lens podcast. If you found this episode helpful, connect with me on LinkedIn and follow us on Instagram for more tips and resources. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, be sure to rate the podcast and subscribe so you never miss the next episode. Until next time, keep your numbers clean and your goals in focus. Best.